The Heinz, thanks for the word will, like our will. And it's ego will, our morals, our philosophy, our structures of our ego, or our truth as the capital T truth, which might be explained as our authentic will, our truth, the heart, the will of the heart. That's each individual's, each uniquely their own calling, each our own passion, which is our power, our peace, and our unique purpose. So in the silence, we get to practice listening between the two or for the two, knowing for most of us the strongest pattern is the ego, the thinking mind, which needs to fill in all the space, fill in all the silence, and fills it in with usually fear, resentment, judging, blaming. And I'm reminded of the phrase, be it to see it. This phrase is the truth, is a capital T truth. You will be what you're being is what you will see. It's what you will reflect. For listening to our ego truth, that is what we'll see. For this, I like the serenity prayer. Yes. Grant me serenity or peace for the things I cannot change, courage for those that I can, and wisdom to know the difference.
That was my grandmother's favorite prayer. And she lost 3 of her family members to suicide. Her father, her favorite brother, and her only son.
Wow, look at that pattern.
Mm.
3 generations.
Yeah.
Yes. And to me, pulls out, separates that ego and truth.
Mm.
And I don't know that there's any rules that can tell the difference. Except for maybe just our heart. And when we ask in the silence, understand wisdom, does it make space in the silence to hear what our heart is telling us? Our heart is guiding for us.
I wonder if it's not a dance between the ego and consciousness. Because in some ways, I think if we didn't have any existence of the ego, I'm not so sure whether we'd be able to partake in social life, actually.
I think ego is what connects us to our body.
Yeah,
Without the ego, why should we be here?
I think so, Heinz. So it's about what you often talk about, Jesse. It's about being able to discern the hierarchy that is going to lead to an openness, and that will be a creative structure. So there's a story that comes to mind. I think I might have shared this before. So what I'm talking about, I think maybe relates to attachment in the sense of grasping. So I think that fits what with my question. And the story that I have is of a Tibetan monk. When he was a little boy, he went with his dad to town, and he saw a red bicycle in a shop window. And he really was, he was completely in love with this red bicycle. And his father noticed him staring at it. And his father immediately said to him, "No attachment." And he was little, so that was already part of their languaging. You can admire something, but be careful. Don't want it too badly. And it's that degree of discerning. And I was also thinking about Heinz's word will and willingness. And yesterday I was also thinking about the poem that I, have read over the past couple of days by Mark Nepo, where he calls it accepting this. And what I found interesting is that the word allowing has become preferential for me. And what I noticed is both with allowing and willingness, there's more of a give, there's more of there's more momentum. And I'd never really noticed that before. Never noticed my preference before, because acceptance was always a word that I really appreciated, and I still do. There's no doubt about that. But allowing has become preferable, I would think.
Allowing is more open.
I think so.
Accepting is much more, that's the way it is. Allowing, that's possibilities.
Yeah.
I remember when I was younger, my dad I always said, I can't do it, Dad. And he said, there is no cannot, there is will not do it.
Yes. That seems to be a universal saying for parents with children.
And that's the difference between the big T and the little t.
Mm.
The ego truth and the true truth.
Mm.
That's a whole can of worms you just opened up for me. Thanks. Because I know a lot of times I was told to do things and that I knew were not right, were not correct for me to be doing, but I was forced to do them anyway. What's very interesting, I'm sorting all that stuff out now. You know, that whole thing about will not. It was always assumed that if you put up resistance to doing something, that it was because you will not, and that wasn't really true for me most of the time.
I think all our parents are from a different generation.
Yeah.
They had to rebuild after World War I and II.
Yeah. Well, what bothers me about that whole scenario is the assumption, the built-in assumption that your parent took with respect to will not, or to the resistance that you had. An assumption that it's a will not. I'm discovering that that's not a fair assumption to make.
Nope.
which kind of dovetails back into what you were saying earlier about ego, that whole self-consciousness. You know, for me, it's more about integrating that self-consciousness into combined wisdom that comes from life experience, and taking that self-conscious ego out of the driver's seat, you know, out of the driver's seat of my decision making, my choices. You know, the driver's seat of my life is not where my self-consciousness belongs, but that's what I've been taught.
I have a feeling that's what most of the world have been taught.
Yeah, and it's, yeah. And that goes back thousands of years. You know, it's just, yeah.
We're the new generation.
Yeah, it's been a long time since anybody knew better. Let's put it that way.
Yep.
So I find that what I've been working on the last few years is more about putting my heart in the driver's seat. You know, and allowing my self-consciousness to inform me to an extent, but also to check my heart to see if what my ego is telling me is true. Because my heart's the part of me that has the real connection to the divine and to the, you know, to the soul, to the capital T truth. You know, not my brain, not my mind, not my ego. And not that part of my memory. And the real growth has been happening for me by making that whole process very conscious. Like being aware of what motivates me. For most of my life, I had been motivated by a force of some kind, a push or a threat. And for me, I realized that that wasn't a healthy way to live. I'm finding myself now to be wanting to be pulled, like magnetically pulled by the desires of my heart. My ego doesn't really enjoy that very much.
I had to laugh at that one.
Yeah, well, it doesn't.
It's hard for it to be a backseat driver.
Well, yeah, that's the other part of it. Because the thing is, the model all around you all the time is exactly that. Is like everybody around you is ego driven.
So it's telling you, Craig, why can't you be driving?
Right, right. So when your parent notices that you have resistance to doing something, they want to force you to do it. The thing is, everything inside you saying no, that's not right for me. So you're basically being forced to abuse yourself, and told that that's right for you.
They do that at an early age. They tell you,
Yeah,
go over in the corner and feel ashamed. How do a kid
yeah.
know what feeling ashamed is?
Well, that's one of the weapons that's used, but that becomes one of your prime motivators.
Yep, self-punishment.
Is the whole thing about avoiding shame and using shame to propel you so-called forward, or using a fear or a threat or guilt. Not healthy.
And then the ego use that program to influence your life.
Right, yeah, because that becomes automatic, right? It
Yep.
becomes your subconscious drivers. Yeah. And then we experience kind of some form of success by using those drivers, and then we keep using them. Success can be approval by your parents or your teachers or someone. I mean, that's another form of success. Like, remember being in elementary school and bringing your report card home.
Yeah, being graded by the outside world, not by the inside.
Right, exactly. Inside you're dying, but you're being congratulated for finding a way to make your report card look good. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a really weird dichotomy that you're trapped in.
Mhm.
So it's pretty easy to think that your report card is more important than you, for your own well-being, right?
It's because the ego is basing it on, if you get a good report, you won't hear crap from your parents.
Right.
Thinking ahead, not enjoying life right now.
Yeah.
And then it bases the future on the past. Remember what happened when you got home with a D.
Yeah. 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 Well, there you go. You learn to be a people pleaser, right?
Yep. And you're doing
Please
it
everyone
based,
outside yourself to your own detriment.
and it's only based on past and future, past and future.
Yep. Yep.
I think the connection to the attachment. What are we attaching to?
Mm.
And
Yeah. I became pretty proud of some of those report cards.
mm, yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
Mhm.
We become attached to belonging, to fitting in,
Yeah.
to conforming, breaking
Making
rules, or if sitting inside them.
up identifications,
Mhm.
Yeah,
identities. And it's not who we are.
Values.
yeah.
Values.
When you ask a lot of people, so who are you? I'm an auto mechanic. No, that's what you are. That's not who you are. People identify with their work. Now they changed it into, I'm a light being, I'm a purple flame or whatever. But it's still identification. It's they just switched their attachments to another thing.
Yeah.
My answer is that depends on who you're asking. Everybody got a different story about it.
And it's when you were talking about what we identify with and what people ask, when people ask, what are we? Or who are we?
Who are we?
Yeah. So I was thinking imagine people's reactions if we had to say, well, we're a reflection of God.
They would say, you don't have a complex about low self-esteem or anything, huh? They would attack you.
Yeah.
Most definitely. That's not, the world are not ready for that answer.
Not quite, no.
Why not?
I didn't guess, sorry. When you say or not.
Yeah.
Probably
So part of
because
it is right to put it in to awareness. Like, why isn't the world ready for that?
Yes.
That is
people
part
have
of the. Sorry,
people
Heinz.
have to look at themselves then. If he's a reflection, then I'm a reflection. Oh my God, am I reflecting this as a God? Oh, they don't like seeing themselves.
That's true. I think the capital T, we don't like to see ourselves. That's why I think so many people, even us here, because we're so uncomfortable in the silence at first.
It's like looking at the water and seeing one's own reflection and then diving into it and seeing how deep it actually is.
Mm. That's, we're afraid, right? From the attachments, from the ego, from the learning, we're afraid of what's inside that, what's deeper in there. From our childhood woundings, Craig, as you spoke about, like what we learned was right and wrong, and we learned that our capital T truth is wrong. And that's the God I call, that's the God aspect.
Mm.
God as we know her. Is love and compassion. It's like, yeah,
Even just the
ego
use of that
doesn't,
language.
yeah,
You know, God as we know her,
yeah,
or God as we know him. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I like
You
to
know, the
point
terms in the
out,
Bible used for God are actually plural. Them would be the correct term.
Should probably be God as we know ourselves.
Well, yeah, yeah. But the idea that we're separate entities from God is very prevalent in our world today.
and that we are separate from each other.
All that too. Yeah, yeah.
And the identities, the roles that have, have legal structures, but then also have unwritten structures. But in it, they all have a structure. It's like, what do I mean by structures? When you think of a friend, what are the structures that make it a friend versus an enemy?
Perspective.
Yeah. And it probably comes down to the emotion of compassion and hate.
Hmm.
To a degree.
Yeah, but what if the truth is it's neither one?
Right?
It's neither friend nor enemy.
That's the separation is the friend and enemy. I'm with you, Craig.
Yeah, the separation is making the distinction.
That's right. Usually an enemy has wronged us from our perspective. They've hurt us and we hold a resentment towards them.
Yeah, as if they are other.
Mm-hmm. And I don't think too many people out there intend to harm me. I don't think they spend their energy, their focus going around saying, oh, how can I harm Jess? How can I get back at him? I mean,
That's more one's own ego thinking.
yeah, thank you, Heinz. It's the
Yeah,
story we make up.
Creating doubt and whatever it can pull down our throats.
Mhm. Creating doubt, fear, and resentments.
Mm. Everything it creates is based on some story. It's composed from something you read or something, and then it'll tell you in the future it will be like this. If you don't do like I say.
Yes, and so we take the moment we're in and we compare it to something from our past and figure what we do next.
And they wonder why history repeats itself.
That's right. Good and bad. Like tragic as Alice in your story. Like that is a pattern that repeats itself that is tragic. And it's like insanity, right? It doesn't make sense.
Mm.
We got to get out of that we think our ego is sane. It is not. You think that it's the right way to be. It's like it's not. If it was, we'd all be experiencing and joyful in life. We wouldn't be separated. We wouldn't be miserable for the most part. And I don't mean miserable or unhappy today versus yesterday or this year versus last year, because that's as short of a time frame we're looking at.
Well, the ego don't plan very long. It's sort of like it'll be within a year or something. Too far ahead for it to think about 10 years from now, 20 years, 100 years.
Yeah, I think it just looks for the pattern, right? The same. It looks to keep the same.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine that life, right? The insanity of that life is to keep playing the unhappiness over and over again. And just until you get it right, though. You see? I mean, we're like, that is unresolvable. That never works.
And if you ask it, what happens when you get it right? I don't know. I have no idea about that. You can only play what you experienced.
So what's the criteria for it works?
Exactly. Because success is just something that's been made up, right? That we're all striving for. Yeah. But even if we get it, it's not going to give us what we want. We can just do more attachment to it. I don't know. It's like what is success, and then what does that give you? All I can do is look back at my patterns, right? Of what I thought was success.
Gives us what we've been taught, good grades and acknowledgement from the outside.
Mm-hmm.
But once you're the so-called successful, you have to keep it up so it becomes something else.
Yeah, because the feedback you get is, yeah, please give us more of that. So that's what you assume success is.
Mm-hmm. Assume success is more of what we had. Or have.
Or of what somebody else has.
That too, yeah.
Yeah. Isn't that a big one? Or more of what you're being rewarded for.
There's a show on Netflix that Allison recommended, The Bank of Dave. Great little show. And not to ruin it, but this lawyer gets to a point that gets a big bonus, right? A six-figure bonus and a dream, what he would have called a dream client. But he was just like he wasn't happy with it. And where he was happy was not where he should, sorry. Um, he was having a hard time because the guy that presented the offer said, if you take that other, if you go with the Dave, the Bank of Dave, the guy you've been fighting for, if you go with him, you're ruined. No one will ever work with you again. So take this 6-figure bonus, this dream client, and keep it going. And the ego, right? I mean, just the ego. The ego, oh, you're going to lose your money. You're going to lose your earnings. You're going to lose your house. You're going to lose your job. All the fear of all these things that we've built, that we've been working for. In my case, 45 years. That to get that A on the report card.
Mhm.
And the heart saying there's something else. There's something bigger.
Yeah, your heart saying, yeah, you're not fulfilled.
Yeah. But not really that condescending. It's more like
No,
there's
no,
another
but it's,
path over here. And it's definitely not as defined as the one you're saying yes to. Obviously. Oh, anything to close out for any of you today?
yeah, I just really appreciate where that went this morning.
Thank you, Craig.
Well, you all have a blessed day.
Yeah, thank you to everybody who contributed to that. That was,
Yeah, have a
something
great
to kind
day.
of cook on, contemplate for another day. Okay, love and hugs, everybody.
Love and
Thank you,
hugs.
Craig. Heinz, Chi, Allison, Mona. Have a great day.
Have a great day.